You've seen the signs everywhere, right? Bring your own bag, say no to plastic. The whole fight against plastic pollution seems to have this one simple, obvious enemy: the single-use plastic bag. But what if the solution we all thought was a slam dunk actually has a hidden flaw? Today, we're going to dig into some really surprising data that shows why the most obvious solution isn't always the best one. Okay, first, let's just set the stakes. This number right here, this is why we're even talking about this. 2050. That's the year scientists are projecting that our oceans could have more plastic than fish by weight. I mean, just let that sink in. It's a staggering thought, and it's what's driving this huge wave of environmental laws all across the country. And, when you're staring down a problem that big, the most direct solution just feels right. You take the problem and you just get rid of it. Ban the single-use plastic bag. It feels like a clean, simple win for the planet. And this isn't just some idea. It's the go-to move in the United States. Over 500 communities have gone this route. The policy is usually super specific, too. It targets those thin, flimsy plastic bags, the ones less than 2.25 mils thick. And on the surface, it makes perfect sense. But here's the thing. What happens when you pull on one single thread in a really complex system? Does the problem actually go away? Or does it just change shape? This is where the story gets really, really interesting. To figure this out, we need a real-world laboratory. And as it turns out, the city of Chicago gave us the perfect one. They tried not one, but two totally different approaches to the bag problem, all within just a couple of years. So let's just walk through the timeline. First, back in 2015, Chicago rolled out that popular solution, a ban on thin plastic bags. But then they did something pretty wild. They got rid of it. And just 1 month later, they swapped it for a 7-cent tax on all disposable bags. We're talking paper and plastic. And that created this amazing opportunity to compare the two policies head to head. And we know exactly what happened, thanks to a super detailed study. Researchers went out to grocery stores inside Chicago, that's the green area on the map, and also to stores in the suburbs right outside the city, shown here in orange. And they just watched. They observed over 24,000 shoppers to see how these policies actually changed what people do. So what did they find? Well, they found that the ban on thin plastic bags worked, but it also created this huge, totally unintended consequence. Now this chart right here, this tells the whole story. It lays out all the evidence so clearly. On the left, you've got the suburbs. They're our control group. And on the right, you have Chicago. I want you to focus on that first bar for Chicago, the one under the ban. And here it is. This is the big twist. The ban worked perfectly on one level. Look, thin plastic bags dropped to 0. Mission accomplished, right? But look what replaced them. A whopping 41% of shoppers switched to paper bags, and another 41%, they started using thick plastic bags. The problem didn't go away. It just morphed into something else. So here's the crucial detail. Retailers are smart. The law only banned bags that were less than 2.25 mils thick. So what did the big stores do? They just started giving away free plastic bags that were slightly thicker than that. They completely sidestepped the rule. So customers kept getting free plastic bags, and the whole point of the policy was kind of undermined. The study's authors really summed it up perfectly. They basically said that when you have a super narrow rule that leaves all these obvious substitutes on the table, well, people and businesses are just going to switch to the substitutes. Banning just one very specific type of bag, it's just not enough. So if the ban wasn't the silver bullet everyone hoped for, what about Chicago's second experiment, that little 7-cent tax on all bags? Well, the difference was like night and day. During the ban, 82% of shoppers, that's a huge majority, were still walking out with a free disposable bag of some kind. But once that tiny 7-cent tax kicked in, overall disposable bag use just plummeted by 33 percentage points. That small fee completely changed how people thought about it. And the data shows this fascinating shift in our actual behavior. All of a sudden, more than half of all shoppers were just avoiding disposable bags altogether. A third of them brought a reusable one, and an incredible 21%. That's more than 1 in 5 people just carried their stuff out by hand. The tax didn't just change the kind of bag people used. It changed the basic habit of taking a bag at all. Now, here is the real kicker. Not all bags are created equal. When you look at the entire life cycle of a bag, from creation to disposal, those thicker plastic bags that everyone switched to during the ban, they can have 5 times the environmental footprint of the original thin ones. And paper bags? 4 times the impact. So the ban might have actually made things worse from a carbon footprint perspective. So when you put all of this together, the conclusion is just stunning. That 7-cent tax wasn't just a little bit better. It was massively more effective. The study actually calculated that the tax cut the total environmental footprint of an average shopping trip by the equivalent of 6.5 of those original thin plastic bags. The lesson from Chicago is just crystal clear. The design of a policy matters way more than its intention. And this is a lesson that lawmakers are finally starting to learn. Just take a look at California. They passed a statewide ban way back in 2014. But over the next 10 years, they saw the exact same loophole that Chicago did. People started treating those thicker, supposedly reusable bags just like disposable ones. So, a new law is about to take effect that closes that loophole for good, banning all plastic carryout bags, no matter how thick they are. As Nate Rose from the California Grocers Association said, there was just this sense that people were using the thicker bags the same way they used the old ones. It's a real-world confirmation of everything the Chicago study found. Policy has to adapt to how people actually behave. And that, right there, is the ultimate takeaway from all of this. When you're trying to solve big, complicated problems like plastic pollution, just banning the most obvious symptom might not work. A smarter, more comprehensive policy, even something that seems less dramatic, like a small tax, can be way more powerful. The details are everything. And it really leaves you with a final thought. The plastic bag paradox is this powerful reminder to always look past the easy fix. So it kind of makes you wonder, where else might a simple solution be hiding a much more complicated reality? Thanks for tuning in.